again for the opportunity to share. I am not sure who was supposed to be here, but there is an event in Vrindavan, and the Goswamis are attending this meeting, and he, as a representative of this temple, was requested to be there with his holiness, Krishna Maharaj. So he went. And I was going to sit with him just as I did with Kalakanta Prabhu yesterday, but then we had a conversation. He told me what he wanted to convey, and he asked me to come and convey the message to you. So, the topic is towards establishing Vaishnava villages, part 1. Starting today, right? And Kalakanta Prabhu was emphasizing the need for education. And inside his presentation, he was pointing out to how education for Prabhupada meant very specific education. He meant Gurukul, that's why you form the Brahminical class, which is capable of forming all the other classes. Because a Brahmana has no other interest than understanding Brahman, Krishna. Therefore, he is a person that can, at one short stop, give you everything you need. Everybody is needing some health treatment, so Brahman knows Ayurveda can treat you. Everybody is looking to marry a daughter, to know if his business is going well. The Brahman has this Jyotish knowledge to tell you. Everybody wants to know what take to go in life. The Brahman can guide you like that. You want to build, the Brahman knows which direction. He has all the vastu to follow his knowledge. You want to know what mantras to speak. The Brahman recites the mantras every day. Therefore, a Brahman is a one-stop shop. You stop in him, he solves all your problems. Now, the interesting thing about a Brahman is that he is fully detached. So that creates such a balance in society. He's got the most prestige, the biggest power, the biggest influence, but he himself is fully detached from everything. For him, the element is not the profit. For him, the element is the duty. That's why a Brahman is in such position, because he can guide society without a particular interest. He can simply guide for the sake of guidance. We have so many examples. So many examples. So if you have such a person, he can train a kshatriya very easily, because he knows the art of war, but he actually doesn't undertake that, because he's beyond. If a Brahman wants to destroy an empire, he can do so. The Bhagavatam is full of examples. The Brahman is so powerful that simply by saying, you die, the person dies. So powerful, so pure. They could bring rain, they could bring prosperity, they could bring yajna. So this very special class of entity, living entity, is highly praised because their interest is mainly the welfare of the whole society. Of course, in that debate in Navadvip, when Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was invited, a dispute between the Vaishnavas and the Brahmanas, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta very bravely at the age of 30 said, okay, I'll go with the challenge. And he praised the Brahmanas, saying that even the demigods cannot move without them. But at the end he said, but what about the Vaishnavas? Have surrendered to the lotus feet of Vishnu. That's very rare. And actually, that's the essence of all our Vedic scriptures. What is the Vedanta? Veda Anta, the ultimate Veda, the ultimate knowledge. To surrender fully to Krishna and understand that this world is a miserable place, that we've made a bad bargain, not understanding it is when we were Brahman. Then we got a second chance as a Prajapati, and then a third chance as a Manu, and after that, 8,400,000 species of lives, and here we are, experiencing all these different
different types of wives. So the Vaishnava mainly is concerned that we go back to Godhead. Therefore, he is higher than the Brahman, because he is fulfilling the Vedanta, the ultimate goal of the Vedas. All the Vedas, they have one goal. Ayurveda, all the Vedas, all the 4 Vedas have only one goal. And the goal is to understand who is Krishna. That's the only goal of the Vedas. And if you don't understand, it's because you haven't contemplated enough. But if you fully understand, there is no difference between any acharya. All the acharyas have a single goal, that we reach the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. Now, when you translate this philosophy down to our living, it turns out to be that there is a certain specific way which pleases Krishna more. And that way is a way which is very known in eras like Satya Yuga. It gets less known in the following eras, and most forgotten in Kali Yuga. In Kali Yuga, you have, every Kali Yuga, you have a different group. Maybe this Kali Yuga, it's McDonald's. Next Kali Yuga, maybe another brand will come out. But basically the pizza boxes on the streets and the nights in the big cities and these jobs, that's the program for Kali Yuga. So that's what we're saying. It's just the station of the year. That's what you get in this season. Now, if we want to create the Satya Yuga environment, then you can refer to what the Vedas say. And then the topic is Vaishnava villages. It's a very deep topic because, as we mentioned, Vaishnava is a very high class in the sense that it is really trying to please the Supreme Lord. It's fully trying to please the Supreme Lord. And in that sense, it doesn't really affect if you are doing any service, because you're doing it for Krishna. Now, of course, if you have a nature which is born from your conditioning, you have to understand that nature. You have to actually know what that nature is. Let's say you have a car and you want to travel. You need to know what car you have. That's all. Depending on the car you have, you can drive it. That's all. But the idea of traveling, that's common to everyone. Everyone must work. The Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that without working, nobody can sustain their bodies. So a Vaishnava village is trying to replicate a model which has a lot of divinity in it. And how can we make a village divine? I was actually very impressed at 13 years old of age. I didn't understand much about life. But my father, in his travels in India, he took us, maybe by a touristic motivation, to this small village in Andhra Pradesh. Now, the scenery is like this. You enter the main entrance, there was a little shop, but there was no advertisement, offer, sale. It was simply like a shelf with goods, cloth, very good cloth. When we entered the village, there were many houses, and every house was doing something. One house was, for example, growing the cotton. So we had all these children with this tin, so the birds wouldn't attack it. Bling, 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 on the fields. They had vast fields. The next house, there was someone weaving the cotton. And the other one, there was someone dyeing the cotton. And the next one, there was someone actually making weaving. We've been talking about this term as a master planner. Someone was weaving. And finally, there was someone at the shop. Now, very interesting, the village was built like a courtyard, many houses. So you're actually walking through the houses of the people. And we found that very curious. And as a Westerner, all of a sudden I found myself in somebody's kitchen, and I said, boy, I felt a little strange. But at the same time, they were not at all bothered with my visit, with our visit. They were really happy to share. Everyone was bringing something for us, perhaps a cup of juice, perhaps a sweet they made, something. And then finally, in the center, there was a temple, which I tried very hard to recall which deity was there. I recall a Hanuman deity on the outside, but I couldn't really tell if they were Vaishnavas or not. But I could say, I have never experienced such a peace in my heart. The whole village was in harmony, such a full harmony. Everything was in its place. There was no anxiety about anything. Everybody was doing their business, very happy. And the whole village had a life of its own. That was when I was 13. And since then, I've been looking for these villages. I don't find them anymore. I find cell phones, I find propaganda of pesticides on the villages. I find so many other things, but I don't find these villages. By the way, we did get an opportunity yesterday to see such a village, and the mood was simply wonderful. So, in us trying to reproduce such a village, there's so much involved. So much. First, we have been discussing technologies. That's one level. What technology did these people use? The weavers, the machinery, the gunnies, everything, the grinders. That's a part of the puzzle. The second part was, what made that people in that village so quiet? Why were they not in such a rat race as I find myself and many others there? What was the element which was inside their inbuilt system which made them peaceful? That was my very intriguing question. Right? And lately, listening to some philosophy class in Mayapur, I came to understand the following. Every action has an action and has a mood behind it. So you may reproduce the action, but you may not reproduce the mood. That's why if you get someone who has teaching abilities but doesn't have the mood of a genuine teacher, he will not do a good job of it. Because what is the mood of a teacher? He wants the welfare of the student. He wants the growth of the student. And if it's a genuine teacher, he wants the spiritual growth of that student. So that means the mood of a Brahman has to come from somewhere. And that's where what he was referring to Srila Prabhupada's quote. We need this Gurukul. Where are we going to inject the mood? Is it in a normal classroom? You put a syllabus out and you just do tests? Doesn't seem likely. Recently in Govardhan Eco Village, His Holiness Devamrita Swami gave a very strong class where he was proposing that knowledge is not a good something that you can just grab it bit by bit and you have it. He says we have to come to the understanding that knowledge is dependent on the deliverer and on the relationship which you establish with the deliverer. And he pointed, this is one of the most challenging issues for us. We think we can just go around, grab this, grab that, and we have the knowledge. But what about the blessings of the teacher to make you use that knowledge? Look at Karna and Parashuram. He had the ability, but he didn't get the blessings. In the right moment, he failed. So this is the core teaching of the Gurukul. If you please the teacher, you get his blessings, you get the knowledge. And today we're very much into the mood that if I go around, I do this course on the internet, that course on the internet, I have the knowledge, I can use it. Now, funny enough, if you look at the modern education system, we'll get to the second part, just an introduction. You see that real education, it starts in the master course. And why is that? One-to-one. One teacher to one student, a relationship. Graduation, it's still so normal. It doesn't matter what you graduate in, it's so general. 20, 100 people, I'm speaking, or a teacher is speaking, someone is listening. It's just general. But when you go to a master course, you start to get a finer research ability. And then then later further develop in a PhD level. So it's the same Vedic principle. But they don't understand it. They simply think it's the title. I can domain all this knowledge about almost nothing. I'm the scientist about the small part of antenna of the ant, and I'm the best specialist in the world on this topic. No one else knows as much as I do. But that's really limiting. Limiting. So that's what we are driven by. And just a side comment, it's not a surprise we are under that idea. It started 1,000 years ago. This secular idea, secular means separate from theology, started 1,000 years ago, and it has been so much integrated into our being, beliefs, that if you talk to any Indian gentleman, his first concern is what college his son will take. It's so intrinsically inbuilt, because he knows if he doesn't have a job, he'll not have money. So the whole system is based like that. So what Prabhupada is really proposing is something quite revolutionary. He wants to create a society where some individuals are simply worried about the welfare of humanity. And that's the main issue on the Guru. So, education. Yesterday I got a question outside and said, okay, very nice, you talked about all the elements of farm and let's cooperate, let's find the technology. What about the school? Farm means children. Children grow up, whether they go to school, and who's going to make this school? So that seems to be a major part of the tapestry, right? How we're going to create these teachers who will be able to give the mood that you're looking for. And I told him, yes, you can start by homeschooling. The Amish did it, it worked. And they based on scripture, it worked as well for their purposes. So we could be looking at one element like that. But it will have to be something which brings the mood. Without the mood, it will not succeed. Because you can do the activity, but you won't be able to catch the purpose of it. Now, yesterday we were discussing about how.
I just request all of you to kindly keep the mobile silent on.
Thank you. Yesterday we were discussing the strategies we were trying to do. So the reason I'm here today in Panchagoda's speech is because we have discussed, and this did not start here. It started a few months ago when I was traveling to different farm communities and temple presidents of important projects in ISKCON and discussing with them what we are doing right now. And the idea is we need to have a certain master plan. We need to have a certain clear picture of what we want. And that needs a lot of working, networking, discussions, forums. And that is the reason I'm here. I'm here because I want to share and listen with you what you've been thinking and how we're going to make this master plan. Because if we do have a master plan, people get interested. Yesterday lectures by by Paramdvaita Maharaj, he was showing how he has branded so many levels in his mission, right? Ecology is present, not so much in our society. You go around Vrindavan, the plastic, the recycling, that needs to be looked into. That can be looked into. And by his branding, we can see that we need to start thinking about this. And this is the perfect forum to do it. And by discussing, ideas starts to come, connection starts to develop. And very soon, you will be finding yourself guiding a project. And you'll be finding yourself actually thinking how you're going to network. I had so many people approach me and say, I'm doing this Panchagarbha medicines, I'd like to have your input. I have this idea to do a conference. So many ideas. And that's happening right now. So, my proposition to this forum, this is sharing experience. We need to start to see what we can do. We know the problems. But now, what can we do? That was Bharat Chandra's Prabhu proposition. Yesterday, we discussed the first idea, but then what can we practically do? So, I'd like to inform all of you present that Krishna Balaram Mandir has made a statement that they're ready to start the self-sufficiency. Haribol! Panchagoda Prabhu actually said that he's starting to realize the importance, and not from now, but but he's been doing some consistent actions. For example, he has some activity with the farms. There was a farm bought recently or some time ago, and the Goshala is taking part of it. I went yesterday to visit that farm, and there are many challenges there. But the challenges can become on our side if we know how to use them. The main strategy which is being developed here is a simple strategy. Rather than having our devotees farm, learn from scratch, why don't we preach to the farmers? So many devotees have been speaking about that. And if you do that, you can attract so many groups, so many devotees can come and actually take part. I'll give you an example. When I was traveling, I first started in Brazil. So the world is very big, and I needed to visit a few farms. So I started by the farm where I joined. It's called Nova Vrajadam, like New Vrajadam. So this is Vrindavan, that's Nova Vrajadam. The same name as the famous farm in Hungary. And there's a curious story. In 1990, when was that? 96, I would say. I was serving there, and they asked me to develop the farm because of the background, agricultural background. And I went to the government, I went to many people. We did make a master plan for the farm, but the devotees were not yet ready to think about that. So the plants died. We planted more than 500 fruit trees. We got an irrigation system. We got the government research institutes to give solutions. So many things we did. But the devotees were not exactly ready for that. So I, discussing with the leader, said, I've heard that New Vrajadam, which has the same name as us in Europe, is developing very nicely. Why don't we go there and learn from them? And his answer, I'm so busy. I'm doing so many things. Who's going to go there? And that's just by a joke. I told him, maybe I could go. I was just a brahmachari and serve in a temple. That was just a joke, really. Because to go out from Brazil in those days was quite a major achievement. If you made it out, it was fantastic, right? Brazil was kind of out of the way of everywhere. And then time passed, and I ended up actually in New Vrajadam. And on my birthday in 2013, I got a present from IDVM. IDVM, in the person of His Holiness Bhakti Raghava Swami, said, I think we should invest in you. You should go and take the course called Pillars of Sustainability. And it's quite amazing. I'm going to come back to this course, but just going back to Nova Vrajadama, the small Vrajadama in Brazil. It was actually made to be a replica of Vrindavan. The temple is so simple. It was, they copied these very simple temples where you make these cement drawings, like lotus flowers. It got a mood of a very Vrajabasi temple. And my Guru Maharaj at the time made a comment that we were so poor that our dhoti could even go to the ankles, could only go half the leg. Just saying, you were so like, in the sense, no electricity, cold bath in the morning, and everything was very beautiful. I loved it. One of the best moments in my life. You know, just wake up and get all these needles in your skin. Then you get ready, and then you just jump to life. So I was in this farm a few years later, and I said, okay, so what do you want to do about it? And they're not sure. They were thinking, we're doing okay. I have about 10 people there. Not much is happening. But one devotee, and that's what I want to point out to you, one simple devotee, he made a project, and it was a proof of solar energy for the whole region. But it was not only for the devotees. That's where I think is the concept. His idea was that we should reach the villagers with that technology and bridge and make friendships. So, that was my first realization in this trip. That's the solution. If we are somehow relatable to the villagers who are already developing villages, if we are relatable, if we have a language which they can refer to, that will be perfect. They will actually supply the food. And I'm saying this as old news because I learned from Paramadvaita Swami that someone is already doing. He's taking 5,000 villagers and he is actually selling their produce. So we are a little, on the way. Not exactly, I wouldn't use the word late, but we're on the way. So that means that the real action is developing a language, developing and understanding the interests of the villagers so that we can come in and actually give what Prabhupada came to give us, which is pure devotional service. But that has a certain language, that has a certain technique. We can't just get in there and do the same as we'll do in another place. So that's what we're looking for. The ministry is looking for those models, and I'm sure a lot of you have thought of pieces of that model. So, if somehow we can bring that forward, and we can actually have such a meeting only to discuss the master plan for rural development in the form of preaching, developing the mood, that's going to be very conducive, because other groups are already doing it. So, just like someone is branding rice and so many produces from the villagers, we could also be doing. And just to go back now to New Vrajadam in Hungary, they have developed such a language that the European Union takes them as an example. And they have a chair in the European Union to give advice. Actually, even the United Nations have a chair for them. They have actually gained that level of respect. And right now they have approved a budget of 8,000 euros, which is about, 7 lakhs, something like that. Just to publish a book where all these models will be presented to the Vaishnava communities. So that's on the way. Another video is being presented by the Czech farm, Krishna Dur, where they're going to actually promote with the same producers of the Lost Village. Do you remember that video from Lokanath Swami? That same video is going to be, the same group is going to make a video on what we're talking about. With all that beauty, with all that language, all that marketing they're doing, that's on the way. So, New Vrajadam in Hungary, you don't hear much about them. But they have a massive project which not only involves Hungary, but the whole East Europe. A whole plan based on Varnashram, where the whole yatra, from the top leader to any devotee on the farm, has the same understanding of Varnashram. That's on the way right now. As we discussed, thinking Varnashram is out of the way, it's happening. And personally, Shivaram Swami holds meetings weekly with some of his disciples to guide them in specific orientation, how that Varna functions in the mood and in the ability. He's doing that now. Bhakti-Vikas Swami has been working, we don't hear much about that, but his communities are developing and he has a master plan. He's thinking of a master plan on Varnashram. We hear that the IDVM has been working through many years in that same logic, with developing syllabus, materials, websites, and so much material. So then, we get invited to make this union. And I think it's very interesting that Vrindavan Dham, which was one of the first temples Srila Prabhupada established in India, is actually very favorable to this. Because if we do think that in Vrindavan we can reach out to these villages, how many programs can we make? How many groups can you take? Can you imagine the impact of a Westerner who comes here and just gets crushed? I use this word. Crushed by the loving mood of the Vrajavasis. All his passion and all his delirious dream that consuming is the summum bonum of life just gets crushed by the loving relation with the Vrajavasis in their mood, as they are. Can you see the potential of that? Can you see the potential of this group coming up with solutions which change the direction of Vrindavan in terms of nature, environment? I mean, how many are we here? There's a video on the internet about a lady called Pam Warhast. I mentioned, and she discusses about the power of small actions. Just small actions are awesome. We tend to think it's only the big global actions. Small actions are awesome. And here's her example. She, along with 3 other ladies sitting around a table of coffee, decided to change the whole direction of the city. And they did. And she said, without, she used the word, without a flipping strategy document, we did it. She just decided to plant the town, not for business, simply to serve the others. So they planted the whole town and anybody could harvest. Of course, in India that would be a little hard because of the monkeys and other factors, but for them it worked. It worked. And it's so much work that 30 towns decided to adopt the program, and it became a program in England where the government just said, here's the lands we have free, please take it, please go and plant it. Now, she has 30 towns in England and 16 countries taking advice from Edible Incredible. How did it grow? Being inclusive. Her motto is, if you eat, you are in. And by inclusiveness, everybody is welcome. There's no boundary walls. And then she can expand in that rate. Now, to get to that point of inclusiveness, you must have a very clear master plan of what you really want. And that's what we're trying to do. So from Nova Vrajadam in Brazil, I traveled to the manor, this Bhaktivedanta manor. And I discussed with the leaders, Shruti Prabhu and Gauri Prabhu, if the manor would be interested to undertake such actions in England. And they were interested, but they get a lot of income from the Hindu community, so they were a little bit hesitant initially how this would relate to them. I gave a few ideas, they thought about it, they're still interested. I just received now an email from Gauri Prabhu saying, next year is the 50th anniversary, what are your plans? We are ready to go on board. Then we went to New Mayapur to hold the 8th Farm Conference. And in there, the leaders had a similar mood. Jayananda Maharaj is going there, he wants to establish a village with 30 ecological houses and invite devotees who have the same mood to go and establish that there. Beautiful property, pristine location, center of Europe. You have a question? Just a moment, let me just conclude this, I'll open to questions. We're on the concluding phase. He was excited. European leaders were excited to get together and get something organized, not only here in our sanghas, but from here, let's go to the management, top down, down top. Let's get on the same page. Why keep the mentality that the leaders are not interested? They were not, but they can be. If we show them it's viable, if you show your operational plan, this is what I want to do, let us do it, they'll do it. Now, if you have a look, 2008, Al Gore went making such a big statement. The world is going to finish global warming. It did not get that warm. Vrindavan does get hot. So, do you know what happened? Initially, IDVM was formed, and immediately, New Vrajadam started the conference. We just got away from that. If you see 92, ECHO 92 in Rio de Janeiro, 94, we have the Ministry of Cow Protection. We should invert that. We shouldn't wait for the Paris 2015 to tell us, yes, the world is going to finish, let's go for it. What is our plan? What is exactly I want to do? Give me name, shape, color, size, specificity, and we'll look at it. That's what we need, a deliverable plan which has everything in it. When is it going to be made? What is the scope of it? Who is going to fund it or how much? Do we need funding at all? Can we start with zero fund? Can we just do it with us? Why do we need to wait for the check to drop? Let's start doing it. Let's start doing it. Now, you may argue with me, yes, but you need a strong leader. Here are the leaders. How can you not be leaders? 40 years of trying and not being heard, and you're here? How come you're not a leader? You're leaders. In your specific area, you're all leaders. So we need to hear the plans. Show me the plans, and let's go for it. Let's go for it. Is it what? A college? What is the syllabus? Who is the Brahman who's going to teach? What is the mood? Who is going to authorize that mood? Let's go for it. Then we can discuss on higher levels. In that level of discussion, a grassroots action is most important. Because you show we made it, therefore it can be replicated. 3 ladies changed the scenery of this great Hamadan town and 30 towns in England. New Zealand is asking them after the earthquake, how did you do? Exactly like the peak oil in Cuba. They are now gurus. And we need to get going. You know, if we were a company, you're in charge would be saying, so what is the plan? Give me the operational plan, and let's see what is possible. So it starts with a very clear picture of what you want to do. We can simply facilitate. Now, what are we doing to facilitate? We're trying to convince the leaders, because many people in the conference said, one of the problems, Prabhuji, is that the leaders are not interested. So I'm visiting the leaders and saying, listen, this is important. What can we do about it? Then here I am representing the president of Vrindavan down, telling me, go. Whatever you say, I sign others. Are you sure? And he said, well, from what we've discussed so far, until what we've discussed, yes. And what is this agreement? A cooperation agreement. A cooperation agreement. What can we cooperate on? So much. So much. Forestry, you name it. Cottage cheese, fresh from your farm. Cow dung products. Let's see what I see here. Varnashram College. The Bliss founder. What else? All the ladies here, all the abilities you have. Sanskrit. What is it that you have that you know? You know, how to make all this traditional culture revive? No? So that's all there. Where's the book showing that? A colorful book, really attractive, on our shops. What about that? How much does it cost to make that book? We have people giving $300 million for a temple. Why can't you read a book? So, back to the point. Manor, and then we came to Govardhaniko village. Here is my witness right at the back, waiting for me to stop so he can speak. A great saint, Sanat Kumar Prabhu. We've been working together on organic agriculture, grassroots activities, right in Mayapur for 12 people. What happens? What happens? Indradyumna Swami takes a photo of the plaque, organic course, and put on his website. There we are, millions, no, not millions, hundreds of people saying, wow, so interesting, organic agriculture. See? One organic agriculture course with a sadhu and his team. So many stories we could go on. Continue the trip from Govardhaniko village to the first Indian farm conference. Beautiful. Simply beautiful. The mood was sharing, the mood was growing, the mood, Talasari, a beautiful farm with a story that is worth a book. A brahmachari facing a whole region, alone, threatened to death, and he threatened back. Do you know how? He says, okay, you guys all have weapons there, you may get me. I may get 1 or 2, but I'm connected to the government, to a big group, and they're going to get all of you. You are married, you have children, you'll be sorry. And they just wail down, and today they love him. He's opening schools for them. He's giving them organic agriculture course. He's employing so many of them. It's right there, a living history. He was here yesterday telling all about it. Can't he contribute? Does he have anything to give us? Is that some kind of leadership we're looking for? Now, from there, we saw the devotees coming, finding the potential of that, we can do it, let's do it. Then we go to Mayapur. Oh, Mayapur, what are we going to do with the master plan of Mayapur? No, we are writing the master plan, we are working with them. We made some propositions. They're starting to listen, slowly, but we have a hope. Something is already in place. Then we come to Vrindavan, and here the temple president just says, okay, let's go for it. I'm into it. So, is it like the leaders are not listening to us? Is it like that? Not exactly. Maybe some leaders, but we're getting some ideas through. What it needs is a good plan. Yesterday I saw a good plan here presented. Paramadvaiti Maharaj, he convinced me of a few things. Language, branding, reach out, inclusiveness. He showed me, he thought it was quite a lesson for us. Tapestry. Look at the word. He used a poetical term. Master plan is quite technical. Tapestry. How beautiful is a tapestry? It's so cultured, so rich. You see the kind of language which you're coming through? Yeah, exactly. Networking is a business term. Tapestry is a poetical term. So he's using poetry to address it. He's using his charm. I was quite enchanted with the gentleman. So now, where to? Where next? Developing relationships, my dear devotees. Without relationship, none of this works. So that's why I came here to stay with you for 2 weeks. It's not easy traveling all the world. You see, when I look at Srila Prabhupada, my God, what he did is, you just travel a little bit and your body falls to pieces. There's my dear wife who takes good care of me to put it back in place. But I knew that relationship is the essence. Based on relationship, and we have to get together in more and more sanghas. This is just a small demonstration of what we can do. Let's do it. And from the relationships we can build a lot. Because relationship is like a bridge. If your bridge is strong, you can transfer so much goods. If it's weak, a few things pass through. Okay? So then, where are we right now? We are towards establishing tapestry model, which can include a master plan for Vraj Mandal, which starts with a small activity, and that's Bliss. Bliss is starting to do that. They're preaching to some villages. The Goshala is preaching to other villages. I'm sure some of you are already preaching to other villages. Is there a common language? Is there a common approach? Can we make a document together about village preaching that we agree with the language, we agree with the proposals, and we can then bring it forward and go to the top layers of our management system. Look, this is what we're proposing. Can you sign that up for us? Can you vote on that? Can that be a resolution on that? So that's what I'm trying to be here, a bridge. So I can listen to you, formulated, organized propositions, which is relatable to the community outside and to our mission, and then we can put it forward. So, ending, I want to end on time. I have 4 minutes, so I'll just end here. Questions? The last point I would just to say is, to do a tapestry, we need weavers. And a weaver is a very meditative person. He's building in his mind the designs. So you have lots of designs in your minds. Could you help us? Could you give us suggestions how to transfer those designs to an organized? We'll be willing to do that, to hear that. And you can do that simply by going to Bliss and their site and say, look, I had an idea, we'll collect from them. This is my idea, this is what I have in mind, it's organized like this. I'll be interested. We'll pick up from them. Because we're networking with the networkers. For us, it's too deep to network. We can't go that capillary. To do that, we need the networkers. So I congratulate Indranil Prabhu, his team, and the organizers for this initiative. I think it's very, very important. And Sanat Kumar Prabhu is coming. In 3 minutes, any question? You had a question, it seems, right?
When we're talking about this program, we also have we are having a master plan by Trust Foundation. It's a big NGO in Trust. So they have created a master plan. Now what they are lacking is a team. So if you can make a team, then the plan is ready. And once the team is there, the funds will flow in. Only thing is the team.
So you see, what we need is you have an idea of a master plan, you have developed it. We call it a proposition. It's not the master plan yet, it's a proposition. Bring the proposition in. Let's analyze it. There are other master plans. And then we weave together. Then the team is here, right next to you. Yeah? Another question? Comment? Correction?
I think an important thing that I'm hearing some things about 1992 Rio de Janeiro, where Agenda 21 came out.
Yes.
I think it's important for devotees, and I think a lot of devotees that I know, older devotees, do realize that there's a lot of propaganda coming through the mainstream media. It comes from the World Bank, it comes from the United Nations. They actually have an agenda to cut off human beings for 50% of the Earth landmass of this planet. That's Agenda 21. So how we respond to that, I think, it's a direct counter program to Srila Prabhupada's mission, which is there's enough land to feed 10 times the population. That's his belief, and that's true. Actually, that's true. But by making land scarce, you can create artificial scarcity, which controls the population and the money supply.
Right.
So we're coming into an era. So my point is that intelligence controls the mind, and mind controls the body. So intelligence, which means real information about what's going on in the world, should be guiding our activities, research, analysis, and then planning. If we come into a planning situation where we're following Al Gore, we're following Agenda 21, we're following, the latest de jure propaganda from the mainstream media, I think we're going to be misguided from our mission, which Srila Prabhupada gave us, so that our intelligence should be guided by what Prabhupada said, and not what's popular in the media. That's my point.
Yes, your point is good, and I'll just comment on it very briefly. I just mentioned that after there was this major events, we had some reflexes right on our GBC resolutions. So I just said maybe we should start reversing. So your comment goes in that direction. Srila Prabhupada's instructions is already a complete defeat for all of this Agenda 21, the Vaishya domination of the world. It's simply a freedom movement. You just go, plant, live your life, and worship Krishna, you're free. Free outside, free inside. Free from your narratives, free from bondage, free from identification. So, Prabhupada is already proposing the ultimate system. That's there. We don't need to redo that. It's done. Now, if we have our grassroots models, they speak for themselves. A happy Vaishnava community has been proposed, speaks for itself. Agenda 21 is defeated right in front of it. Okay? So, I'll thank you all. Yes, it's right on time. We have here great sage, as they call him, Sanat Kumar Prabhu. We work together. He's a member of SBC. He's executive member of this committee. And we are gradually building it to have a representation of the world leaders in this committee and make the propositions. So I thank you all very much for your patience. I apologize for not having fully prepared. It was just from this morning, notice. But anyway, I think it's relevant to stress those points. Okay? Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki.